So good day, everyone. So today is the first special lecture for the Math E15. So this lecture is designed specifically for the Math E class. However, the topics to be discussed in this event it can also be used or can be it's also relatable for other Math E students and professionals. So we open it to the public. So for this event is entitled um, Materials Engineering, Scope of Professional Practice. So for today, we'll have two speakers. So they will share their knowledge and experiences for this field. So they will talk about it. So to start, I will discuss the mechanism for this event. So for this, we will have a speaker, then we will have a Q&A portion. Then after that, we will award certificate to the speaker. Then we will proceed to the next one. So in order for us not to disturb the speaker during their talk, kindly mute and off your video during their presentation. Then also, if you have any questions or clarifications regarding the talk, you can ask it during the Q&A portion, or if you do not want to forget it, you can ask it in the chat box, and we will ask it later during the Q&A. So to start, we will start with our first speaker. So I am honored to introduce her. So our speaker is the co-founder and chief Salixiker of Salixik Incorporated. So Salixik is a research management system geared towards tech adoption to help tech transfer offices bring research projects to the market faster to the with the streamlined processes that empowers Filipino researchers. So last year, the Salixik PH won the first place of the Techstar and QBO Global Online Startup Weekend Unite to fight COVID-19. So with their creation of the platform for researcher to acquire financial support through crowdfunding. So our speaker is also a consultant working as instructional designer and technical resource person for the Fab Lab Makerspace Management Academy project under the USAID Science, Technology, Research, and Innovation for Development, or the STRIDE program. So in our department, she works as a part-time senior lecturer. So in the department, she teaches undergraduate research thesis under the Math E. So she also taught teaching elective courses on Humanitarian Engineering, Entrepreneurship, and Design, or the HEED program. So HEED is a university-wide research and design program integrating the strengths of various disciplines to deliver technological solutions to underserved communities in the Philippines. So please help me welcome Ma'am Jill Manapa.
Thank you, Jessa.
Hi, Ma'am Jill.
Thank you for that very kind introduction. Very detailed as well. Parang naano mo na yung ibang parts ng talk ko. So thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you rin for the other faculty members of handling Math E15 for having me this afternoon. And I was looking at the participants list. Parang merong mga classmates ko nung grad school and then past students. So hello everyone. I'll just share my screen first. Okay. Yeah. So my talk this afternoon is about my journey through engineering and beyond. So kung napansin niyo dun sa intro kanina ni Jesha, parang hindi lang Math E yung ginagawa ko ngayon. So, yun yung and beyond the part. But most of the talk will be more on storytelling. Kukwento ko sa inyo kung ano yung parang pinagdaanan ko sa Math E as a career. Ano? Okay. So, let's begin. Right. So I'll start our journey in 2010. Okay. So in 2010, I was an incoming fifth-year student uh, sa department taking up PS Materials Engineering. So I had my OJT at Analog Devices. Wala masyadong pictures yung slide na to. Ito yung slide with the least pictures kasi 2010 hindi pa uso yung smartphone and most of the cameras parang VGA pa lang, so very low res. So bear with me, ito yung photo. But to give you a bit of a background, no, Analog Devices is this huge global semiconductor company. Okay, and my classmate and I, si Jessa, we work there primarily doing quality assurance work, reliability testing of the chips, ganyan, and a lot of non-destructive testing. It was a fascinating time for us as students, no? Kasi parang nakita namin in practice yung mga dinidiscuss sa mga lectures, and many of the equipment na nakikita lang namin sa textbooks or sa internet, we actually got to use them during our OJT. So yun yung parang isa niyang highlight. And Analog was a very good company in terms of how they treated their employees, even the interns, yung benefits, ganyan, may shuttle service and all that. Masarap ang pagkain. Tumaba talaga kami doon. But during the 8 weeks of practice, no, I slowly realized that industry didn't seem to match what I wanted. Especially when as we went along the program, parang I found it quite routinary, yung 8 to 5 na corporate time, ganyan. And then I always found myself parang thinking about the things I could do outside the walls of the company. And just to give you some context, no, when I was in undergrad, I was part of this social civic org, and I headed the community service group or team of that org. Kaya parang I was really leaning towards using my skills in engineering to for community development. So parang doon ako naka-align. But yeah, anyway, yun yung brief stint ko sa industry, and I encourage you, no, lalo na yung young students natin sa audience, na be strategic when you choose your parang kung saan kayo mag-OJT. Parang it's a good opportunity to test out, get your feet wet, kumbaga, kung yun talaga yung gusto niyong pasukin na field. Okay? So, yun yung 2010. I graduated undergrad 2011, and then I was searching for a job that connected engineering with community development, and of course I didn't find any at that time, so I decided to pursue graduate school. Okay, and then yung goal ko sana with graduate school, ayaw lumipat ng aking slide, ayan. So yung goal ko sana sa graduate school is that parang pipili ako ng topic na problem that a community faces, and then I'll solve it using materials engineering. But during that time, very few faculty members were working on that aspect. Wala pa yung UN SDGs, hindi pa nila na-formulate. So very research, as in medyo fundamental research heavy talaga yung focus ng graduate program before. Okay, and so I was quite frustrated that time, and I considered quitting the program. I talked to my advisor, si Doc Les, I think she's here now. So we had that heart-to-heart talk, and I was really grateful for that conversation kasi parang sinabi niya sa akin noon, ito yung quote sa baba, parang earn your degree and then do whatever you want after. Kasi I talked to her at the time na tapos ko na lahat ng coursework sa MS, and then yung experiments ko sa thesis were more than halfway done already, and then there I was saying that I'll stop, I'll quit. So sabi niya, tapusin mo na kasi patapos ka na dun sa program eh. And then pagka nakuha mo na yung degree, do whatever you want. And then that was coupled by my dad's advice na bitter medicine must be swallowed quickly. So parang sabi niya, tapusin mo na lang agad. Tapos, so yun. So I stayed and I'm very grateful that I stayed. I got to um, yun, my MS degree was my ticket then in a way to teaching in the department, and then I got an opportunity as well to present my research in abroad. No, that was my first time outside Asia. This was in Austria. So in my fellow researchers at IB ito. Nagpunta kaming Austria to present our research, and then dun ko unang na experience yung parang na-starstruck ka kasi yung mga authors nung journal na binabasa mo when you're doing your RRL, na-meet mo sila face to face. So yan, medyo na-starstruck kami ni Ate Ivy. And then, yung parang plus pa dun, the conference was held at an actual castle. So parang first time namin sa actual castle. But yeah, it was my first parang serious project in as a researcher, yung aking MS research project. And then here we have yung research team namin, research team ni Doc Lesto, dun sa nanoclay group. Yan. Si Ma'am Mitch is there. Yay. Okay. So that was in 2014 when I presented my thesis, and then 2015 I finally earned my degree, no, in MS. Yun naman, may lag. Okay. And then nung na-earn ko na yung degree ko sa MS, talagang sinunod ko si Doc Les. I did what I wanted to do. So July I graduated, August first sem yun. So when I was teaching, I found myself collaborating with the Department of Psychology, nagpunta at collaborate with Triple E, with Mechanical Eng department. Kinausap ko yung FA, my students were doing this project creating, building their own ceramic 3D printer. Tapos, yan, nagko-consult kami sa mga ceramic artists sa fine arts, ganyan. And eventually, yung project that we were doing, a research that we were doing with the Department of Psychology, I was able to present it dun sa isang conference din sa US naman, called IEEE GHTC, Global Humanitarian Technology Conference. And that really opened my eyes to this growing field of humanitarian engineering around the world. So I met like-minded people who were also into this impact-focused education. They were doing projects in Africa, in South America, and so on. And yeah, that was very pivotal in my career, as you will see later. Okay, so that was 2015, and then 2016. So around 2015, naglabas ng call yung DOST, call for applications for a visiting researcher position at Case Western Reserve University. So there was this lab there who was led by a Filipino, also a UP graduate, si Dr. Rigoberto Advincola. No? And the project was more of materials development for 3D printing. So hindi pa thing yung 3D printing nun dito sa Philippines. So DOST was really eager to send Filipino researchers abroad to train and then come back here to spread 3D printing. Kumbaga. So yeah, the whole of 2016, I stayed at Case Western in Doc Gobet's lab, and doon namulat yung mata ko sa ibang research environment, no? Parang ibang level yung pacing nila dun sa US, particularly sa Case. Yung term ko when I was there, parang factory siya ng publications. Kasi talagang 1 year lang yung stay ko doon, pero we had like 3 or 4 papers out with 1 year worth of work. So talagang research talaga yung focus, as in every single day. So yeah, ito yung building kung saan kami nag-work. Ito yung research group that time. Dito kami sa 5th floor. Yan yung lab ni Doc Gobet. And ito yung mga some of our projects that we worked on. So ito yung puro graphene oxide mostly, no? And then it was also a time that wala pa kasing gumagawa nito, even in the US, yung dinedevelop naming material. So, as a researcher, parang first time ko ma-feel nun being like literally at the forefront of something. It was very exciting, pero a lot of hard work din talaga. Yun. First time ko rin pala pagka when you publish papers, di ba parang may magre-review and then may rebuttal na mangyayari, parang i-defend mo yung paper mo, ganyan. And then first time ko noon na maka-experience ng review na parang ayaw na talaga nila i-publish yung paper. Parang sabihin nyo na lang po na ayaw nyo i-publish. So grabe talaga yung pag-isa na question mo, di ba marunong naman ako magsulat ng papel, ganyan. Pero grabe yung pagkakagisa nila. But yeah, wow, my teammates and I, my co-authors and I, nilaban talaga namin siya. And then, ayan. So, na-publish naman sa High Impact Journal. There. Exciting times. That's one of the things that you can do in MATE, no, as a materials engineer in research, develop new materials. And then I came back home 2017 and I realized na parang walang walang research lab pa sa DEP that really focuses on design. Kasi much of when you do 3D printing, you're really printing actual tangible objects, no? And yung objects na yun parang hindi lang siya basta-basta, may design considerations na pumapasok doon. And when I parang reviewed the curriculum din ng MATI, parang hindi namin tinuturo pa sa mga estudyante yung design aspects. So, I started a group pa lang siya before, focused on design, called FDI. So, yung Functional Design Innovation Group. Mm, Basically, I just wanted this group of students who were interested in tinkering, in producing something tangible, to really play. So, hindi siya graded. Yung projects were just what they wanted to do. So, may paper making, ganyan. And then, we bought a 3D printer, And then, merong two students who were really seriously interested in pursuing the design track. So we applied for another DOST grant, no, yung Young Innovators Program Award na grant, and they were awarded sa si Josh at si James. Yung award money nila, yung ginamit namin to buy the equipment for the lab. So Josh was working on developing a 3D printer filament, no, na made out of bamboo. So parang may filler siya na bamboo, locally sourced bamboo. And then si James naman was more on recycling of the 3D printer filament kasi very wasteful din in a way yung 3D printing. Ang dami na-generate na waste. So we were trying to figure out if we could recycle that, reuse the waste material. So yun yung research ni James. And then the other members ng FDI were doing projects kasi at the same time, I also introduced an intro to product design na course as an elective. Kasi that time, meron ng research track, saka design track, yung MATE program. And students were not enrolling in the design track. So pagbalik ko, parang noong 2016, na-dissolve siya kasi parang isa lang ata yung nag-enroll. So 2017, parang nagbabadya ulit, nabadissolve yung design track. So I asked the students, bakit ayaw niyo mag-enroll dun sa design? And then, ang logical naman nung answer nila, kasi daw, from first year to fourth year, parang yung scaffolding na binild ng MATI program was on research, di ba? Yung chemistry, physics classes nila, yung major, so yung mga lab classes sa majors, it was all research focused. And then all of a sudden, mag-enroll sila sa design, sa thesis na wala silang background about it. So, yun, kaya nag-offer din kami ng design class, design elective. So, yung mga students doon, some of them were part of FDI. So they had this project, yung power ring. So they were designing this ring for cerebral palsy patients kasi yung mga may CP or cerebral palsy like akong here is an actual CP patient. mahirap sila mag-grip ng objects, no? So, itong group of students designed that para makakapag-drawing na si Akong, he could hold a spoon or simple objects, ganyan. And then they won an award sa for their project. And then eventually, we rebranded, no, yung FDI to Made Lab or Materials for Art, Design, and Engineering. Kasi napansin namin na parang masyado nang nagfo-focus yung students on the design aspect, nawawala yung materials aspect. No? Kaya we had to put that word in the name of the lab. So right now it's called Made Laboratory. And so we also held workshops. Okay. So ito pala yung mga equipment that we bought using the award money. So paste extruder, yung 3D printer, yung pang extrude ng filament, and then we also had a clay 3D printer. Okay. Itong clay 3D printer, I think we were one of the first, if not the first, to order it in the Philippines. Sobrang hirap. Talagang sinundo pa namin siya sa customs. Nagkanda labo-labo. But eventually, we had it and a student used it for her project in creating 3D printed floral substrates. So ito yung some of the projects that the students in Made Lab worked on. May bio 3D printing, plastics recycling, ito may gumawa ng canine prosthesis. So yung student na yun, mahilig siya sa canine, sa aso. So very interesting kasi when we talk about sa design kasi may tinatawag na user-centered design. So you focus on kung sino yung gagamit. Parang you design for the user, no? And usually yung user, humans. Kaso sa project niya, yung user, aso. So he worked with behavioral veterinarian, ganyan. Kasi nung una nilang sinuot yung prosthesis dun sa dog, talagang nagwala yung dog kasi parang foreign object siya, ganyan. So they had to wait like a few weeks na nandun lang, katabi lang ng aso yung prosthesis so that he could get used to it. Hindi na siya magwawala pag kinabit sa kanya. Yeah, it was very interesting yung project na yun. And then there was, ito kay James to, he did this conductive 3D printer filament. This was in partnership with Doc Dona's lab. And he was successful in doing it kasi one day, parang kumatok si James sa faculty room, tapos may dala siyang filament, alligator clips, tapos may ilaw. Tapos nung dinemo niya sa akin, na nung kinlip niya yung alligator clips dun sa filament, umilaw talaga yung LED, and then wow, ang galing. So anyway, ayan. And then my UAV project then, this was in partnership with Sir Jason. Some projects. Then we also did workshops, spreading 3D printing, what it is, yung pag-CAD, ganyan, in the department. So we trained people in the department on how to use the 3D printer. And then we also joined the Manila Maker Fair, ganyan, the Fab Fest, Philippine Fab Fest, etc. So yeah, this is another thing that you can do as a materials engineer. Start your own lab and then share your passion with materials and design, in my case, to the students as well. Yeah. So aside from research, another thing that you can do as a materials engineer is consultancy work. In 2018, I served as a consultant at the DTI Design Center of the Philippines. So meron sila nung program, Materials Development Program, with several projects. And one of the projects was this Piñapel project. No? So yung Piñapel, it's a specialty paper made from discarded pineapple leaves. Okay? So yung role ko dito sa project was really parang directing kung ano yung, wala kasi silang clue on materials characterization, yung mga ganyan, ano ba yung kailangan na properties nung packaging material, ganyan, kung ano yung application. So ako yung nagsasabi sa kanila as a materials engineer kung ano yung mga kailangan nilang i-characterize na properties. And then once mapatest nila, sa depth yata nila to tinest, no? Once mapatest nila, ako rin yung nag-i-interpret nung results nung test. And then from there, draft recommendations on how to move forward with the research. This was very memorable for me because it was the first time that I was involved in a research project that actually got out into industry. Ganun, ano. Kasi may ka-partner kami ditong manufacturer, may company sa Region 10, I think, ano, sa Region 10 na gumagawa talaga ng nitong mga paper cups, ganyan. So we were working with them, and in less than a year, we were able to produce these products from that research. And eventually, the product won an award in New York. So it's a prestigious design award abroad. So, yeah. So that was another thing you can do as a materials engineer. And then of course, yung isang when you graduate from math E, teaching is also another avenue you can pursue. So I started teaching in the department in 2013, full-time 2013 to 2019. And I really focused on introducing experiential learning, primarily by introducing this concept of service learning. Kasi nga, di ba, parang gusto kong i-combine yung community development with engineering. So I introduced that way of teaching in my classes. So pag tinanong mo yung mga students ko, most of the time may mga interactive activities talaga. So this is a lab class. They built a life-size boat. Ayan, kasama ko si Doc Les dyan. Kaming dalawa yung nagtuturo ng composites class. And then ito rin, composites class yan. And the ceramics class naman, we did actual glass blowing. Hindi yung full-blown kasi wala tayong resources for the full-blown. Pero small scale glass blowing just so the students could really experience firsthand kung ano bang nangyayari during glass blowing. So, yan. And then even the courses na seemingly parang hindi engaging. This is a thesis class, 190 yata yung you would often find my students still doing something. Ayan, nakasalampak sila sa lapag doing group work, peer review of each other's work, yung mga ganyan. So, experiential learning yung focus ko in teaching. And then in 2017, I became the program coordinator for the BS Materials Engineering program. And it was memorable in that yun yung time na nasa process kami of curricular revision. So yung from 5 years na program going to 4 years, sa akin napunta yung part na dinedefend na yung ginagawa namin curriculum. So ang dami talagang meetings, ganyan, and then ang daming pagpo-collate, pagsusulat, pag-e-edit ng manuscript na to, ano. Parang mas malala po siya dun sa thesis ko, MS thesis ko, itong output na to. And I guess mas malaki yung pressure kasi a lot of students will be parang affected by this curriculum. No? So if we did something wrong in the design, parang ang daming students na magsasuffer. Ganyan. So yung curriculum nyo ngayon sa Math E15, ayan, kami yung gumawa niyan. So, na-experience nyo siya ngayon. Hopefully, maging okay naman yung run. Yeah. Also in teaching, aside or in conjunction with teaching, I started this group in UP, still aligned to my goal of combining engineering and community service. I started this group called SEED, Humanitarian Engineering, Entrepreneurship, and Design. And the goal is really to deliver technological solutions to underserved communities in the country. So, last year ko lang nalaman na yung term pala dun sa ginagawa ko. Kasi SEED was like my startup. Parang nag-startup ako sa loob ng UP. Pero hindi siya for profit. Pero may tawag pala dun sa ganong way, which is entrepreneurship. So the act of behaving like an entrepreneur while working in a large organization. So anyway, so yung seed, nag-start siya, parang I partnered with student organizations kasi yung isang napansin ko that time, the senior members of the faculty were not very receptive then, dun sa idea of humanitarian engineering. Piling-pili lang yung naging interested. But the students, every time we do a service learning project, every time I mention humanitarian engineering, parang na-excite sila ng gusto. So I zeroed in on the students, partnered with 2 student orgs, and then with that we established teams. So initially we were doing symposia, and workshops every year during our founding week, which is July. And then we started just inside UP, and then eventually we did road shows in Baguio, and then I was doing talks nationally, parang introducing people throughout the Philippines to this concept of humanitarian engineering. Ayan. And then, let's see, yeah, we also introduced this course, so yung HEED elective course, starting 2018. So this was an opportunity for students to learn the knowledge and skills needed to start and deliver successfully a humanitarian engineering project. So we had 6 batches now to date, and then yung parang fourth ba or third batch yata namin, I co-taught it with a professor from the Department of Computer Science. So may mga com-sci students na pumapasok, ganyan. But most of the time, very diverse yung students dito sa class na to. Hindi lang from engineering, may students from fine arts, from BA, from statistics, ganyan, from RT. And yeah, so parang okay naman yung naging interaction nila. Yung diversity brought new perspective din to the students. And then every year since its founding, parang meron lumalabas na spin-off from the class. So yung first spin-off was Loop, no? Initially, this was Project Plastica, yung tawag namin. So the idea was to establish a plastics recycling facility in a partner barangay, and then parang yung women in that community, yung mga nanay, would run that facility as a source of alternative income for them. So parang they produce products that they could sell using various recycling machines. And then in 2019, yung group of students, no, yan, sila Rick, sila Glenn, they joined the first ever Pasig City Climathon of Mayor Vico Soto. Yan si Mayor Vico. And fortunately, they won first place in that climathon. So now, Loop is still up and running. So it's a social enterprise, and they're working very closely with a barangay in Pasig. And then in 2019, in 2020 naman, there was a group of students and who worked on developing a parang birthing tool, no? Birthing tool specially designed for remote areas. Kasi yung nangyayari pala sa remote areas, parang yung mga nanay, natatakot silang gamitin yung bed dun sa clinic because they find it intimidating with all the metal parts and all that. So they designed something less intimidating, low cost, more portable, ganyan. And they joined an international competition, yung James Dyson Award. And they won again, first place, yung nationals, sa nationals. So, yun. Mostly, parang naman, may mga lumalabas na output dun sa feed course. And the groups who are doing it, itong Rebirth na group, they're also diverse. Merong from College of Law, though si Angelo, siya, math rin yan, materials engineer na nag-law, and then he joined Rebirth. Then from RT, Industrial and Math. very diverse. And so in around 2018 then, 2018, 2019, I I was by then teaching in around 5 years already. So I decided to parang request for tenure. And kasi sa academe parang isa yun sa milestones, no, to have to have tenure. So I requested for tenure 2018, and then 2019 I was granted that tenure. But then medyo nagtaka ako nung 2019 kasi I I was happy, of course, no? I was happy of that achievement. But then I wasn't as happy as I expected to be. Parang may mismatch na nangyari. I don't know how to word it, pero I think I was looking to do something else, ganyan. And so the whole of 2019, bulk of it, parang talagang nagnilay-nilay, nagnilay-nilay kung saan pupunta, bakit gano'n yung nararamdaman ko sa when I was in the department. Kasi in 2013, when I interviewed for the job, I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. Like, sa isip ko talaga, sa UP na ako tatanda, doon na ako magre-retire and all that. But then, 2019, there was that new feeling that I seemed to need to do something else. So I reflected on my values, and if my values still coincided with my work environment, if they could still parang kung nagma-match pa siya. Okay? And then I realized na medyo hindi na siya nagma-match dun sa gusto kong gawin, no? It's not that UP is not a good place to work. It's a great place to work. And if I will choose to go back full time, I would choose UP in a heartbeat. No? It's just that yun nga, hindi na nagma-match that time yung gusto kong gawin sa system ng university. And so I requested for reclassification in November of 2019. So less than a year when I was granted tenure, nagpa-reclassify ako as lecturer. And then January of 2020, I jumped into the startup world. So, ayan. Nag-lag na naman siya. Yan. That's right. So 2020, actually, yung January, February, wala pa akong ginagawa nun. Medyo grabe pa yung anxiety. But March 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was part of this research project under din kay Doc Les. We were doing a project na COVID-related. And then, of course, we were asking for funding sa government and funding agencies. And the usual, very bureaucratic, may mga paperworks, ganyan. And as a researcher, parang feel mo na yung urgency na mag-start na tayo, ayun na yung pandemya, ganyan. But then, that begged the question, is there no other way to parang jumpstart research projects while waiting for funding agencies to process your grant, your grant money? So, with that, hello? Okay. So with that, I submitted an idea for parang crowdfunding for research. Parang Kickstarter, if you're familiar. Kickstarter, Indiegogo, nagka-crowdfund sila ng projects. Pero instead of products, no, parang research yung ika-crowdfund. So we submitted that in Startup Weekend Philippines, yung idea. And then it got into the top 30. It got into the top 30. We formed the team in Startup Weekend and then won first place in that competition. And that served as our first validation that we might be on to something dito sa ginagawa natin. So we continued building it. But then after 6 months, we realized that the crowdfunding model wasn't a viable business model yet. Parang hindi pa ready yung Philippine market to shell out money on research. So we parked that idea, but then through our market research, we found out that business chambers, businesses were very interested with the way we curated research, with the way we presented research projects to the public in a laymanized way. Kasi parang ang feedback nila sa amin, pagka kinakausap nila yung researchers or kahit DOST, very technical yung pagkaka-present ng mga research. Kaya hindi nila ma-adopt kasi hindi nila ma-appreciate how that research is related to their industry. Parang ganun. So may gap in that respect. So sa Liksik, we pivoted, we zeroed in on that gap. And right now, we're building this platform. So ito siya, yung that empower. We bring together the major players in innovation adoption. So yung academe, industry, and government to ensure that the research projects that you do in academe, they are successfully transferred into society. Kasi if you think of it, the solution to any societal problem you can think of, kung traffic man yan, poverty, hunger, whatever, yung solution always starts with research. But that research will only have impact pag na-transfer siya in society. Otherwise, papel lang siya. Okay? So, yun yung goal namin, na yung research na ginagawa sa academe, matatransfer siya into society. And so right now, we're working with Region 10. Sila yung si DOST 10, Region 10 yung nag-fund sa amin. And then we're working with the Orobest Innovation Program under the Oro Chamber of Business and Commerce. No? And hopefully by August or September, we'll be launching this site. So dun sa site kasi merong parang option yung industry to search for research projects. Parang search engine, maglagay ka lang ng keyword and then lalabas lahat ng research related to that keyword. And then if you click on the research, it will direct you to the page of that institution. Kasi right now, yung isa ring nagpapabagal sa tech transfer from the industry side, is that industry needs to visit every institution to check kung ano bang ginagawa nilang research, ano ba yung pwedeng i-adopt. So every HEI, visitahin nila. And usually, ang pinupuntahan lang ni industry, yung mga kilalang school. So UP, Dasal, ganyan. Kung nasa Mindanao ka, yung malalaking school lang din, USTP, NSUIIT. So paano yung mga mas maliliit, yung lesser known schools who are also doing great research work, no? So we want to level that playing field for everyone through this platform. So yun si Saliksik. Yeah. So in 2020, we entered an incubation program, yung Make Sense incubation program. And funny part noon, yung mga past students ko, parang kaklase ko dun sa program. Si Nakati, si Glenn, ayan, mga math-e din yan, na nag-social enterprise. They have their own social enterprise. And then, when I jumped into the startup world, parang there's this, for a time, there was this nagging feeling na I was parang moving away from math-e, no? But then, I realized na hindi naman waste yung lahat nung ginawa kong work na related directly sa materials engineering. In a way, all those years of research really parang prepared me to be part of Saliksik. Kasi sabi nga nung isa namin kausap na business chamber, si Ms. Ket, yung head ng Orobest program, research daw is the soul of business growth. So even in business, research is very critical. So yung skills that you will learn in math-e, in your 4 years in college and in grad school, that will still come in handy when you enter industry or when you do a startup. Ayan. And then fun fact lang, very quick, so si Saliksik, since we're founded during the pandemic, we've never met in person as a team. Prior to forming the team, isa lang yung kilala ko, si Angelo lang, my former students. The other 5, I only met them during startup weekend. And right now, we're still working together, SEC registered na kami, but we've never met face to face. So, I guess I wanted to share that to let you know na it's possible to create something even in this virtual world that we're in right now. Okay. Ayan, last na job na i-share ko dahil quarter to 4 na pala. Another consultancy work that I started in 2020 was being an instructional designer and technical resource person for USAID. And in particular, we're working on this Makerspace Management Academy. So when I was in UP, when we started Made Lab, I worked very closely with the UP CFA Fab Lab. So merong Fab Lab or Fabrication Lab sa College of Fine Arts. And yun yung happy place ko. Everyone knows. Everyone close to me knows the Fab Lab was my happy place. And to be given the opportunity to serve as consultant and design the curriculum for the managers of Fab Labs throughout the Philippines, parang sobrang, di ba, yung happy place ko multiplied so many times kasi I'm now working with all the Fab Labs in the country. So yun yung isang ano rin, parang uh, hindi rin na waste yung experience ko in teaching kasi I'm still doing curricular development, yung lahat ng effort namin sa curricular revisions from 5 to 4 years. Parang nung inoffer sa akin tong job na to, sabi ko, ay, kayang-kaya na yan after nung 5 to 4 years. Sige, gawin natin tong sa MMA. So, ayan, we're still working on this, and we're looking into launching it in August as well. So yan, to wrap up, lessons, no? Bilang teacher, i-summarize lang natin ano ba yung hopefully lessons that you will learn from my stories in the past 45 minutes or so. One is, I guess, the importance of self-awareness as early as now. Kahit na first year, second year kayo in every point of your life, self-awareness is important. Why? For me, it kept insecurity at bay. When I was, lalo na noong 2019, nung nagdadalawang isip na ako sa full-time position in the academe, I was parang thinking na the system was telling me that there was this feeling I wasn't enough unless I have a PhD. Every time, parang the system is built that way. Na parang if you want to go up the ladder, you have to earn that PhD degree. And to me, I parang love-hate relationship with PhD. I think I just felt like there were other ways of learning. I have high respect for people with PhD, but I also know that that wasn't the only way to learn the things I wanted to learn. So, so sa akin parang kaysa mag-spend ako ng 4 or 5 years in a PhD, I would rather use that time to really do something on the ground and learn on the fly. Parang yun yung mas nag-work sa akin na way of learning. And I was aware of that. So that gave me the confidence na, sige, kaya ko to. If I jump into the startup world, I think I can do it. Parang ganun yung ano. So self-awareness is important. And then don't box yourself inside your field. So hindi porket engineer ka, engineer lang yung gagawin mo. Engineering stuff lang yung gagawin mo. So Math E doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's part of a bigger picture. So there's this ano rin, parang mentality na pag engineer ka, parang ang taas-taas mo. But you don't know everything. You cannot solve everything, no? And especially in our complex with the complex problems that we're facing in society right now, engineering alone cannot solve those problems. You need the humanities, you need the arts, everything. Yung ibang fields, you have to learn to open yourself up to them and parang be aware of the things you don't know. Kasi sometimes, yun yung isang na-realize ko, it's just as important to know the things that you don't know as it is to know the things that you know. Okay, so don't box yourself inside engineering. And then last is focus on impact and how to scale it. So my mentor, si Kanjan Mehta, he has this motto, no? Parang only 3 things matter daw in any project. It's impact, impact, and impact. And then when I started teaching social entrepreneurship, I realized that impact alone is not enough. You have to scale that impact as well. So you can scale it via academic collaboration. So if you're a full-time faculty, you can scale your impact by collaborating with those outside your department, outside your college, outside your university, outside the country. So yeah, that's one way of creating impact. You can also create impact by doing a startup, kasi that's where the entire business model is parang doon siya umiikot. Kailangan scalable yung business model. And then you can also create impact by, say, if you're a researcher, by licensing your research to industry para lumalabas siya sa society, kung ano man yung pinaghirapan mong research. So yeah, there are various ways of doing it. And very quickly, just to share with you yung second point, yung second point na don't box yourself inside Eng. I have this former student, si Joseph, Joseph Yap. He's now doing his master's in design, innovation, and technology at RMIT in Australia. And Joseph is really someone who's inclined to the arts, very creative person. As in, so baka kasi iniisip nyo, lalo na yung mga incoming second year or yung first year students na pagka nag-math ka, pag materials engineer ka, parang stuck ka na dun sa tech industry. You can get out of that industry. Materials engineering is a very broad field. You can go to packaging, food, creative arts, etc. No? So hindi lang sa tech field. No? So yeah. And then may time din na sa college, parang yung math students were dubbed as the creative engineers daw. Kasi parang laging merong creative projects yung mga math students before. Yan. I think sa class nila, Sir Jeff, ganyan, may mga creative projects silang pinapagawa. And during my time as program coordinator, nung nalaman kong may ganong feedback, I saw that as a compliment because having our students dubbed as creative, parang that's a very good thing. Creativity is a very crucial skill in today's world. Yeah. And yeah. So, i-share ko lang din to sa inyo. Nakita ko lang to sa FB like 2 days ago, I think. And yung comment na to really struck me. Sabi, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life because they are not hiring in that field. Nag-resonate siya sa akin kasi somehow yun yung feeling ko when I started HEED. Parang when I was in grad school, I knew what I wanted to do, but no one was doing it. So no one could hire me to do humanitarian engineering. So eventually, I worked my way to building my own humanitarian engineering group. So I guess what I want to say is don't be afraid to build something from scratch. No? If you know what you want to do and wala pa siya dyan, try building it. Try starting it. It will take a lot of work, but I tell you, if you're authentic, if you have that clear vision, you'll be surprised at how many people are willing to help and support you. And finally, ayan, I will leave you with this. This is my wordiest slide in this deck. This one goes especially dun sa mga younger students natin sa audience. So in 2011, when we graduated, it was the late President Noynoy Aquino who gave the speech during our commencement exercises. And this is an excerpt from his speech. And I guess I want to remind you as well that as when you decided to pursue your education here in UP, you made a pact with with the Filipino people that you have a responsibility after graduation to give back, no? So you have an obligation as an scholar ng bayan. And a lot is expected of you, whether you like it or not. It comes with that title of being a UP graduate. Whether you like it or not, may responsibilidad ka sa bayan. So I guess I'm saying this because the past few months or years, I've been seeing some of my people I know who were already like changing their citizenships and all that. Hindi kasalanang syempre maghanap ng opportunity. I I won't sugarcoat it. Mahirap naman talaga ngayon yung sitwasyon sa bansa. But remember, as an scholar ng bayan, yun na, may responsibilidad tayo. We have the people of this country invested in you. So uh, we we need to pay back, parang give back. No? So that is expected of you. And yung sa pag-alis, yung sa pag-alis, last year there was this Rappler event, and there was a Q&A with Maria Ressa, and I asked her parang what message does she have to people who are losing hope in the country, di ba? Parang ang dami ko rin kakilala na nagsasabing wala nang pag-asa yung Pilipinas, grabe na yung korupsyon, grabe na yung patayan. And it's valid, no? Their fear na parang their hopelessness, talagang valid naman siya dahil sa mga nangyayari ngayon. But then Maria answered, no, with a smile, kaya may smiley face dyan. This is the time to fight. If you leave, you will make all of us weaker. So I hope to the future materials engineers of this country, I hope you don't leave, or if you do leave and settle in another country, I hope you don't forget the people who invested in your education and who, in a way, also gave you that opportunity to parang go abroad. So, wag makalimot, wag makalimot, and yeah, I'll end my talk here. Hopefully, you got a lesson or two. Ayan, saktong 4 o'clock. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Jill, for that wonderful talk. So now we could accommodate some questions. So please click the raise hand so that I can call you. So if you have any question, you can ask Ma'am Jill. So if gusto niyo, pwede niyo sa chat box, tapos babasahin ko na lang.
Or any thoughts, kahit hindi questions, ganyan, kung merong thoughts na nag-rise with the stories told.
Okay.
Ayan.
May question po, ma'am.
How early since undergrad did you know what you wanted to do? Okay. No undergrad, hindi ko pa alam. So, actually, yung may turning point, yung turning point ko was 2010. So there was this event. That was the year that my grandmother passed away. And then parang it was unexpected. So that was my first parang close encounter with death, no? And having that close encounter with death really made me question what I wanted to do parang in life. Parang if I were, she died unexpectedly kasi. So I asked myself, if I died unexpectedly, would I be parang fulfilled sa ginagawa ko ngayon or sa direction ko? And my answer in 2010 was no. So that was the only time I started really looking for my purpose, as cheesy as that sounds. Pero yeah, 2010 lang ako nag-start talaga maghanap. Prior to that, I was parang set on doing what society expected of me. Earn a degree, get a job in a company, work in the corporate world, start a family, whatever. No, the usual, yun nga, parang societal expectation. But 2010, I intentionally parang mas mindful na yung pag-search ko nung purpose. And then I realized that I enjoyed so much yung mga ginagawa ko sa student org sa UP Ictus, no, yung community service aspect. So after graduation no 2011, I guess yun na talaga yung naano ko na I want to combine engineering with community service. Ano yung susunod? Kasi I feel many undergraduates, yeah. Oo, ganun talaga. But, yun nga, siguro as early as now, be strategic. If you're in first year, incoming second year, ganyan, start exploring already what makes you spark. Parang ganun. What interests you. So, kausapin niyo yung iba-ibang research group sa DepEd, kumausap kayo ng mga estudyante or even teachers in other colleges, see what they're doing, and then see how you could connect what you're doing in engineering with what they do, parang ganyan. So you can be strategic while you still have time inside the university.
Ma'am Jill, may isa pang question from Doc Donna. So, what is scary about going into startup is the lack of security. Is it possible for you to support yourself or your family while working on your startup po?
Okay. Very good question. Okay. So, kaya very ano rin ako, pagka dun sa mga students ko sa HID, kasi I encourage them to pursue the startup world, ganyan. Pero, depende rin siya sa context nung tao, no? So, if halimbawa, ikaw yung breadwinner, of course, it might not make sense to let go of a full-time job and then just jump blindly into the startup world. When I did jump sa startup world, I saved enough money. So yung mga PCA ko, inipon ko talaga yun para may buffer ako for around 1.5 or 2 years, ganyan, na kinost ko siya, binudget ko kung ito lang yung gagastusin ko every month, kailan mauubos tong perang to kung hindi mag-fly yung startup. So, if we're going to jump sa startup world, yung first year or so, no, first year, ganyan, hindi pa siya profitable unless super innovative talaga ng idea. Pero hindi siya profitable. Right now, hindi pa kami sumusweldo, yung mga co-founders ko and I. But yun nga, parang you can prepare for it. I guess parang magkaroon ka ng buffer before that. Did I answer your question, Doc Don? Sagot ko ba siya?
Sa YouTube po siya nagtanong. So, I
Okay.
think nakikita naman niya. So, ma'am, last question from Nicolo. So, what advice do you have for the people who want to try a lot of different things while also pursuing a set career path?
Okay. In a way, parang medyo ganun yung ginawa namin ngayon, pati ng mga co-founders ko no, sa Saliksik. But even when I was still in UP, parang yung HID ko was on the side. Parang siya yung side job ko. Tapos yung full-time is really research and teaching. Yung advice ko would be, parang check your bandwidth. You can definitely do that, no, while exploring. Parang keep your full-time job, your stable full-time job, and then on the side, start exploring other things, but just be ready na talagang ano siya, draining din at times. Kasi kung during daytime, you're doing your full-time job, sa gabi mo lang talaga magagawa yung exploratory job mo, yung sideline. No? So, yeah, check your bandwidth, prepare yourself psychologically for that. Pero it's very possible. A lot of people are doing that na they're doing their passion projects part-time until such time that they can shift completely dun sa passion project nila na yun.
Okay. So, Ma'am Jill, may isa pa, super last. So,
Sure.
tapos if ever may mga last question pa, I think pwede naman kayong i-contact, diba, Ma'am Jill?
Yes, oo. Yeah.
So, if ever. So, for this last question po, so what skills or aspects did you look for in your co-founders? Wait lang. So, what skills or aspects did you look for in your co-founders when you were planning your startup? So, ano yung mga dapat makikita as a co-founder?
Okay. So, medyo complicated yung ano namin sa Saliksik, kasi nga, we just met in this event, yung Startup Weekend Philippines. So, there was no full-blown HR interview na nangyari. Everything happened so fast. But I guess one thing that I look for in a co-founder, and which fortunately nakita ko dun, fortunately meron yung co-founders ko ngayon sa Saliksik, is that alignment in vision and values. So nung nagre-recruit ako sa Startup Weekend, nilabas ko naman sa PubMat kung ano yung idea, the vision of the startup, ganyan. And kaya siguro sila na-attract din na kontakin ako to join the group. And then when we formalized the company, so talagang we laid out yung mission, vision, and the values. Right now, we hired 2 contractual developers. And during the interview, yun na yung inaano namin, yung alignment sa values, alignment sa mission, saka sa vision, na malalaman mo siya the way the person talks, the way the person talks about the projects they did, no, and then yung plans niya in the future, how they see their experience with the startup contributing to their growth, yung mga ganun ba. So, but to make ang dami kong sinabi. Pero, so basically, to make my answer short, alignment in values and vision and mission. Yun yung hahanapin ko sa co-founders.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Mom Jill.
Okay, thank you, Rin.
Thank you. So for the next part, it will be the awarding of the certificate po, ma'am. So, together with my mga kasama ko nagtiteach ng Mati 15, we present the Certificate of Appreciation, proudly awarded to Jill Z. Manapat for sharing her knowledge and expertise as a resource speaker in a special lecture of Mati 15, Principles of Materials Engineering Practice, entitled Nothing Wasted, My Journey in Engineering and Beyond. So, given on the 4th of July 2021 via Zoom platform at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, Quezon City. So thank you so much, Mom Jill, for that wonderful talk. So,
maraming salamat din.
Then for the next is photo op po, ma'am. So for all participants, so kindly turn on your video. Then the host will screenshot or take a photo. So pa-on na lang ng lahat ng mga camera. So hi. So,
sorry, I can't.
So,
Picture ko na lang yan.
Yeah. Wait lang. So, i-grade.
Ako na ba, Jesh?
Yes. Pwede, ma'am.
Okay, sige. Hold lang kayo ng smile, ha? Kasi ilang, ano pala to? 5. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Sorry, mabagal yan. Tapos, 1, 2, 3, smile. Kaya nyo pa? 1, 2, 3, smile. And then, last 2, 1, 2, 3, smile. So, smile lang kayo kasi hindi nyo alam baka kayo na yung nandun sa ano. Then, last one. Yan. Thank you so much. Ayan. Okay na, Ma'am Jesha.
Okay, so yung iba kaya turn off the video. So, yan. So, okay. So, thank you so much, Ma'am Jill. So, now we will proceed to the next speaker. So, our next speaker is a professor at the Department of Mining, Metallurgical, and Materials Engineering. So she mainly teaching undergraduate subjects in metallurgical and materials engineering. So she is also teaching in the graduate, so in the MS and in the MS level. Then, so in 2020, the College of Engineering has recently recognized her as outstanding engineering professor. So she obtained her master's degree in metallurgical engineering and the BS metallurgical engineering in the university. Then she further took a doctorate of engineering in material science and engineering from the Tokyo Institute of Technology. So currently she is the chairperson for the MATE certification board. So let us welcome Dr. Leslie Joy Diaz. So, Hi, Doc Les.
Hello, good afternoon. Hi,
Afternoon,
Jeff.
Doc.
Salamat sa pag-invite, no? Thank you to everyone who's handling Jesh, Mitch, Jepoy, and Petch, no? So if you'll notice, guys, I call them by their nicknames. Kasi matagal na kami nagsasama sa department. And I'd like to tell you guys, medyo teary-eyed ako, no, nung pinapakinggan ko si Ma'am Jill. Dahil sobra din akong proud dun sa kanyang accomplishments and how she has become. Sabi ni Sir Jeffoy, same daw kami, no, teary-eyed ako. Dahil teacher ka, no, parang mga anak mo na rin yung mga yan. Hanggang ngayon, medyo naiiyak ako sobra. Hindi ko na tuloy para magsalita. Teka lang, give me a few seconds. So yun, medyo teary-eyed ako dun sa mga experiences ni Jill and medyo gusto ko i-summarize yung ano bang meron akong nakita kay Jill, no? Kasi parang she's one of those students that you will really feel proud of having been given the opportunity to teach and mentor, kumbaga, no? So yun, gusto kong dugtungan yung kanyang last slide kasi sabi niya self-awareness. Ano? Gusto ko sabihin din sa inyo guys na I think looking at Jill and how she has grown into the person that she is right now, no, I think she's really also aware of the surrounding that she's in. And dahil she's aware of the surrounding that she's in, she's aware of the opportunities that come her way. Kasi it's really, whether you like it or not, it's the environment, it's your surrounding that brings you all these opportunities that makes you great, kumbaga. Hindi tayo pare-pareho ng tatahakin na daan, hindi tayo pare-pareho ng greatness na mararating. And the most important thing is we just do the best thing that we can, no, in every opportunity that's given to us. So basically yun yung nakita ko kay Jill and many of the faculty members that also handles na naging estudyante ko din at naging lalo na yung mga naging advisee ko, kumbaga, ano, kasi medyo mas close ang aming encounter. And apart from being aware of your environment, guys, ano, of the opportunities that come your way, also having the right attitude, guys, ano, is really important. If you will notice and listen to Jill, ang dami niyang instances sa buhay na parang parang ang dami niyang dinaanan na parang nagko-question nung kanyang stage, nagko-question nung kanyang vigor, nagko-question ng kanyang direction, ng vision and all. But that did not deter her from moving forward. And if you notice, it brought her to bigger and bigger opportunities because there was this appreciation that each way, each path, each step that she took really gave her that preparation to make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And yun, no, everybody of us will have to, should take advantage and appreciate those things that come your way, basically, no. So yun, isa pa, iniisip ko din sa sarili ko, magagawa ko kaya yung ginagawa ni Jill? Kasi parang she's all over, no? And not just the Philippines, but even outside the Philippines also, no? Tapos sabi ko, mukhang hindi. Kasi nag-asawa ako, guys. Siguro yun yung pwede ko sabihin. Because Jill, she is blessed with a very loving family, no? And that, I guess, is another factor that gave her that strength, no, kahit mag-isa lang niya itong pinupursu, maraming pangarap niya, no, maraming gustong i-pursue na directions. And so because of that, I'd also like you to encourage you guys to surround yourself with people that will support you, will love you, whatever accomplishment or whatever failure you'll face, no, in life. Kasi it's never a boring, it's never a boring journey if you are there to appreciate every step of the way. Malungkot ka man, masaya ka man, no, parang you share it with people that will value that as well. Yun, ang dami ko na sinabi, hindi ito kadugtong dun sa aking sasabihin dahil ang aking sabihin medyo official because I'll be coming here to you guys as the chairman of the Materials Engineering Certification Board. And I'd also tell you guys, no, Jill was also instrumental in, we started the idea, we started the groundworks of the materials engineering work as a committee, and Jill was part of that, no, a committee of the Institute of Materials Engineers of the Philippines. And Jill, as I said, no, Jill was part of that, no, instrumental din siya dun kasi marami kaming, kumbaga, groundworks na ginawa. And then now when the certification board was created, no, for some reason, Jill did not participate anymore. No, so but nonetheless, no, Jill is always at the back of all of these of these accomplishments that the Materials Engineering Certification Board is now pursuing, and other people became involved. No, marami nang tumutulong. No, marami nang nag-express ng interest also to become certified as well. No, but we still hope that there will still be more. So therefore, I am taking this opportunity, guys, no, to also promote the certification board, because we're really still at the birthing stage, kumbaga. There are still a lot of scaffolds, kumbaga, na kailangan buuhin so that we will be able to implement the certification process in a more efficient manner. Okay, so let me share my screen to walk you through that. Okay, yan, ano. Okay, so let me now present this. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, so as I've said, no, I'll be talking about the materials engineering scope of work as defined in our materials engineering certification institution, basically. Now, let me move to the next slide. Okay, so what I will talk about really is the Materials Engineering Certification Board, and then I'll be moving on towards giving you a picture of how the certification process is being conducted at this point. And then, of course, no, ang logic or the reason for having that certification process is really to support, to advocate towards professionalizing, standardizing, advancing our practice of profession in the country. Kaya papasok yung topic about materials engineering scope of practice. And then finally, just to give you a quick appreciation of when it become, or when is it become classified as a professional practice, no? Kailan ba ito naging professional practice? Kapag itong mga ginagawa ko, na parang katulad lang naman sa ginagawa ko nung nasa UP, nag-aaral pa ako, no? So let me walk you through all these topics, okay? So let me move forward. Okay, so materials engineering certification, guys, is short. In short, is called the MAT-ECB. It was instituted on June 30, 2018, by the Institute of Materials Engineers of the Philippines. Okay, and the mandate of this organization is really to provide that mechanism by which we develop, nurture, competent, ethical, okay, let me just bring out my pointer, and ethical, skillful, and effectual materials engineers whose standard of professional practice and service shall be excellent, world-class, and globally competitive through, okay, ito ngayon yung pinaka-immediate mechanism natin, through assessment and monitoring measures, programs, and activities. Okay, so kaya one of the main activities now that the CB, the MAT-ECB, is preparing for really is to institute the certification examination. Okay, so now let me move forward. Okay, this is the original constitution of our MAT-ECB. So we are really just so few, and it's the academe, the research institution, as well as the industry is represented by this group of people. So you can find me here in the middle, and then I'm beside me is Dr. Persha Ada de Iro from Admatel, the ITDI of the OST, and then you have here Ma'am Jalen Honko from St. La Salle University in the Visayas, and of course you have your Sir Ed Magdaluyo, also a faculty member of our department. And let me go to the other side. Next to me again is Rex David Navaja. He is in the industry, connected, affiliated to different companies already. And then we also have next to him Dr. Daniel San Luis. Formerly, he was with Texas Instruments, and now I think he is connected with another company already. And then we have here Jason Lagar. Jason is connected with Analog Devices Inc. Okay? Yung pinanggalingan ni Ma'am Jill kanina, no? When she had her internship. Okay? So we have a new member right now. Hindi pa lang po siya na naka-swear in, kaya hindi ko muna pa siya pwedeng i-declare. But in the coming days, you will also get to know her. Okay, so moving forward, so let me now share with you what is the Materials Engineering Certification. Okay, so yung Materials Engineering Certification, there are two ways by which we recognize or we certify materials engineer. One is by recognizing that person or that engineer as a certified materials engineer, and then the other one is a professional materials engineer. Okay, so ang qualification talaga or ang requirement, no, to become certified as a materials engineer is number one, at this point, no, ito yung kailangang mangyari. One has to become a regular and active member of the Institute of Materials Engineers of the Philippines. So right now, the certification is just being done to the members of the organization. Okay, there is a lot of extra work, no, laws to be instituted if we want it applied to the general public already. That's why we are still, in a way, it's really testing how to go about the certification, so that when we are better aware, we know the mechanisms better, may institution na kumbaga tayo, then we can probably get to the possession of applying or proposing a materials engineering law that will now institutionalize, no, in the whole country as a law that will now apply, how should I say, institutionalize the licensure examination, yung typical na narinig natin about engineering licensure exams. Okay, so I hope this is clear. We are now instituting this. We are applying this to members of IMEP. Okay, now moving forward, to become a certified materials engineer, the first thing that we have to do is to pass the certification examination administered by the MAT-ECB after your graduation, guys. Okay, so right now, hindi pa ho kami nakakapag-institutionalize ng certification exam dahil ginagawa pa lang natin yung groundwork, pero meron po tayong tinatawag na grandfather clause. Okay, ibig sabihin, ito yung pwedeng magpa-certify na materials engineer sila, na certified materials engineer sila bago nagkaroon ng certification examination. Okay, so there are qualifications or requirements to allow you to apply for that, and that can be provided to you once you express that intention. Now, moving forward, in your case, however, yung mga current Math E15 students natin, I hope, no, we are already in that stage of regularized institution and administration of the certification exam already. Okay, and then of course, next is to now, as a certified materials engineer, you are then required to participate in the continuous professional development activities offered by different institutions, formal and non-formal training programs on materials engineering. So one of the non-formal training programs, guys, is something that now can be offered, for example, lang, no, by IMEP, or by other institutions like kunyari the National Engineering Center, for as long as it is related to materials engineering and it is on top of what you have learned as basics from your academic, from your baccalaureate degree, and it capacitates you better to practice your profession. Those are all considered your continuous professional development activity. Okay, now, so this is the first step. Certified materials engineer is the first step. But what happens next after some years of experience as a certified materials engineer, you can then be qualified to be considered or recognized as a professional materials engineer. Okay. So number one pa rin dyan is dapat member ka pa rin ng IMEP throughout your years of practice. Next is that you now have to have that continuous or accumulated practice of materials engineering profession for at least 5 years after obtaining the CMAT-E recognition. Okay, so una muna is my CMAT-E recognition. 5 years after CMAT-E recognition, you now can be recognized as a professional materials engineer. So yung doon sa mga nag-exam, doon sa mga mag-exam, madaling mag-recon ng 5 years after the examinations and the recognition, right? But for those that do not have the examination yet, there is what we call, again, the grandfather clause to now recognize professional materials engineers. So marami po siyang mga options that will now guide one to assess kung qualified ba siya na magpa-recognize ng professional materials engineer. Okay? So again, I can provide that to you if you are interested to know more about that. Okay? So this is now our materials engineering certification, and the intention really, as mentioned earlier, dun sa ating mandate, is to help now ensure that materials engineering practice is of a certain standard level, a standard quality, world-class, kumbaga, kahit saan ka man, hindi mako-question yung mga dinideclare mo na results, dinideclare mo na findings as a materials engineer. Okay? So yun yung intention natin why we have this certification process. Okay? So moving forward now, let me start and begin to walk you through what we now classify or consider as a scope of materials engineering practice. Okay, so this is defined in the MAT ECB resolution number 001. Nakita nyo na dyan. So this is really formalizing and codifying, institutionalizing what we now classify as materials engineering practice, by putting it into a resolution, and becomes a black and white document that passes on from one generation to the next until it is being revised. Okay, so now as per this resolution, it is scope of materials engineering practice is defined as something that involves the professional knowledge and skills of generating and applying the theories, principles, practical concepts, design fundamentals and processes, and rendering services related to adapting to the industry, laboratory testing, quality control, process, okay, research, development, failure analysis, and of course, academic practice or practice in the academe, okay, for teaching and for further training. Okay, so I think one of the things that I would like to stress here is we still will employ the things that you have learned from school, but the thing now is you will use this theories, principles, concepts, fundamentals, not just to play around anymore, but really to render, to use these theories, principles, concepts, and skills, competencies to render service to others. Meaning, ibig sabihin, meron ka nang pwedeng maapektuhan kapag ikaw ay nagkamali, or pwedeng may mag-gain with whatever you have rendered as a service to them, to the people, to an institution, to a company, and so on and so forth. So essentially, it's now using your knowledge, your skills, your competencies to gain some benefit for the community, for someone, for the company, or for an industry. Okay, so yun na ngayon yung tinatawag natin na professional practice or scope of materials engineering practice. Okay, so moving forward, let me now go through each of these. Ano bang ibig sabihin itong mga bulleted na to na items as part of the scope of materials engineering practice? Okay, let me show you now some further description of these. So materials engineer in adapting to industry means that you are someone who helps ensure conformance of materials and material products to the applicable engineering standards and technical codes of the industry in the manufacture and utilization of various materials and material products. Okay, so it is important for us to understand that there are standards. Meron tayong ISO, meron tayong ASTM. I'm sure these institutions are familiar to you guys, kasi sila yung nagsiset up ng standard na sinasabi natin na itong mga products na ginagamit natin ay pumapasa dun sa specification na nakaspecify sa standard. And the universe, basically, the whole world agrees to that technical specification and says na qualified itong material na to na mag-render ng function na to. Okay? So those are embodied in what we call standards. So ISO and ASTM standards are one of these. Kaya nandyan yan sila because we want to protect the business to begin with. Of course, most importanteng i-protect is yung gagamit ng mga products na pinoproduce natin. Okay? That's why these standards are also there to ensure that. Okay? So therefore, kailangan nating ma-make sure na bilang kung ikaw ay materials engineer na nagpo-produce ng mga products na to, ma-make sure mo na nasa-satisfy itong mga standards na to by subjecting your products, your materials to some testing, performance testing or characterization. Okay? So ito ngayon, kanya-kanya, merong universal, no, may ISO tsaka ASTM are examples of universal standards that industries can go to, but there are also industry-based standards like what you can see here, no, yung JDEC, which is a global standard for microelectronics industry. So kapag ikaw ay materials engineer na nagtatrabaho ngayon sa microelectronics industry, basic sa'yo, ito, getting to know what is the requirements of our products according to the JDEC standard. So kapag ikaw ay pumasok sa manufacturing industry, depende kung ano yung mina-manufacture, you have to know what are the standards that you should be able to satisfy before you release the materials, before you release the material products. No? Nasa manufacturing ka man, nasa electronics ka man, nasa construction ka man, nasa packaging ka man, na nabanggit kanina ni Ma'am Jill, no? And then, or kung nasa energy industry ka man, or even more particularly, no, in biomaterials or biomedical devices, because this is really used directly on people, no, that will of course enhance supposedly their quality of living, or if we're doing badly, no, pwede ding makakosa kanila ng severe or serious harm. That's why there are these standards that help us ensure that. Okay, so kung ikaw papasok dyan, kailangan alam mo yan. Okay, now further, as a materials engineer also, you are able to do these activities in the laboratory to do laboratory testing. Okay? So kung kanina, dun sa standards, inaalam mo lang, sinecheck mo lang kung ikaw ba ay nagsasatisfy sa standard o hindi, masa-certify mo ba yun na itong product na to ay nagsasatisfy sa standard o hindi, ibig sabihin, meron kang basis for saying na oo, nagsatisfy siya. Meron kaming maraming pinatest. Okay, take note of my term, marami kaming pinatest. So ibig sabihin, pwedeng ibang tao ang nag-test and you now rely on the test results that they gave you now to be able to certify that product as satisfying the standards specified by the industry or the standards like the ISO and ASTM. Okay? Pero kung hindi ikaw yon, pwede ka din ikaw yung nagpo-produce ng results na yon. No? You now make sure that the data that you release to the people that declares that they're of standard quality are actually reliable. Okay, so how do you do that? No, so you now go into making sure that the specimen are correct, are properly prepared, the test procedures are correct, no? The results, the raw data are properly processed and interpreted. Okay, so yun yung mga importanteng aspeto kapag ikaw ay materials engineer na nagper-perform ng laboratory testing. And you certify to those results. And now, by certifying that, you can now issue that to those that require that reliability of being able to issue the certification of their material products. Okay? So yun yung connectivity kumbaga nila. No? Magkaiba sila, materials engineer sila pareho, pero magkaiba sila ng output. Magkaiba sila ng napoproduce na experience, na practice kumbaga. Okay? So that's materials engineer in laboratory testing. So moving forward, the other thing also is you could be a materials engineer in quality control. Okay. So a materials engineer in quality control, guys, evaluates and specifies materials and material products for engineering applications and perform quality control and assurance to meet customer specifications. Okay. So if we go by the flow that I started with, those adapting to the industry. So kung si industry may particular standard, no, swerte. Pero posible din kasi na yung industry na yun or yung product na yun, wala pang existing standards. So therefore, as a quality control engineer, as a materials engineer in that quality control practice, it is also possible for you to establish that standard. Ano ba ang appropriate specification for this particular product so it can be applied to that particular application that it was designed for. Okay, so pwede ikaw mag-design ng ano bang material properties dapat ang sinasatisfy niya. Ano dapat ang strength, ano dapat ang kanyang chemical resistance, no? Ano ang constraints na dapat nating bantayan para hindi siya unnecessarily magamit at magiging guide ito sa mga users na hindi siya ma-expose to risks that will cause its premature failure. Okay? So yun yung pwede din gawin ng isang materials engineer, having familiarity in doing in analyzing the application, no, the constraints of the application, knowing how to test the material, what are the properties that can be representative of those particular risks or environment basically, no, or exposure basically. So ikaw din, no, dahil alam mo yon, din medyo kaya mo na ding mag-establish dapat ng ano bang magandang specification natin sa material or material product na ito. Okay, so that's materials engineer in quality control. Okay, now moving forward. Okay, so now you are the other option now is also for a materials engineer to be in the process. Okay, so kanina medyo from product, no, from the product itself that is marketed or that's being used by an end user, marketed by a company or used by an end user, meron kang guide ng mga standards na tinetest, ginagawa din natin yung information that will allow us to ensure that standard, or magda-design ka ngayon ng specification para ito ay masundan, no, at ma-ensure na masatisfy. Okay? Pag ikaw naman ay ngayon pupunta sa materials engineer, as a materials engineer in the process, ang pwede din mo ngayong involvement now is because, no, alam mo kung ano yung pwede niyang paggagamitan, then of course now you choose processes that will prevent creation of course, no, aside from creating the product, also prevent creation of defects that will also risk the shortening, or that will possibly cause the shortening of service life of that product. Okay? So dahil ikaw ay materials engineer na marunong at na-appreciate yung application, alam mo kung paano mo din bubuuhin anong material choices ang pwede mong i-put together so that your product will satisfy the requirements of your end user, basically. So now, by knowing your materials, the materials to be put together, because alam mo kung anong options mo na materials, then you can also come up with the processes that will put those materials together. What are conditions that will make those materials come together, join together, and function the way they are expected to do so. Okay? So yun ngayon yung isang responsibilidad, kumbaga, ng isang materials engineer in the process. Okay? So medyo sana nakukuha niyo yung connectivity, no? So yan, ang process na yan can be applied in different industries. Kaya pwedeng yung process na ginagawa sa isang industry like the semiconductor industry, for example, is not the same process that may be applicable if you go to construction industry. Nagpo-produce ng mga products for the construction industry. So therefore, having knowledge of the basic materials forming technologies, materials synthesis technologies can now give you that, kumbaga, menu, no, on what to choose as applicable materials or processes that will allow you to come up with products for the semiconductor industry, for the construction industry, and all the other industries that will make use of materials. Okay. Now, moving forward, the other practice of a materials engineer, of course, no, is in research. Okay. So, materials engineer in research, guys, are involved in the advancement. Okay, hindi na ito yung off-the-shelf materials, kumbaga, no? In the advancement of materials engineering practice. Okay, so basically using systematic research methods, simulation and modeling, proper statistical tools on emerging materials, technologies, and literature. Okay, so basically, pag ikaw ay I guess, no, parang I would encourage you guys, of course, no, you can go do research in any time of your career, but feeling ko mas magiging capacitated ka, no, to identify how to gear your research, how to innovate your research, how to maneuver your research if marami kang naintindihan sa existing, sa current materials, if you if you have been exposed to the industry, basically, no? So kaya mas nakakapacitate kang mag-research, okay, ng particular materials application, materials innovation. Okay? So kaya sinunod ko siya doon sa materials engineer in the process. Okay? So moving forward, tuloy ako sa materials engineer in development. Okay? So kumbaga mula doon sa research, kumbaga if we can now say research is something that produces how should I say, the laboratory scale output, siguro the proof of concept at the very least of the existence and the possibility of these materials being applicable, no, to certain applications. Kunyari, being applicable to the body, being something that can be used inside the body without having to cause harm to the person using that inside the body, no? So yung mga ganun, pwedeng research level yun, pero para to really realize and bring it to the level na totoo na siyang ginagamit ng mga tao at ginagamit na siya sa loob ng katawan ng tao, that's already can be a scope of materials engineer in the development stage, basically, no? So the materials engineer in the development stage, no, comes up with or develops, control, and advise on processes used for synthesis, fabrication, characterization, design, modification to produce, innovate, or develop new materials, material products, and processes. Okay. So moving forward, okay, tuloy ako sa materials engineer in failure analysis. Okay. So, let me read through first, no? Performs the materials engineer in failure analysis, guys, performs failure analysis and prescribes material enhancements to avoid failures and recommend corrective measures, improvement in design and performance of materials and material products that will now help that material to have an extended service life. Okay, so yung failure analysis, guys, is one of our very important tools in knowing how to innovate, in knowing how to design, improve design, in knowing how to address the gaps, the constraints, the weaknesses of the existing applications of materials. So in a way, failure analysis, okay, is actually a common tool of engineering kasi, di ba? Hindi lang naman tayo nag-failure analysis. Even other engineering practitioners, even doctors do perform failure analysis, no? So ang failure analysis is an important tool, an important guide for us to know what to advise, how to proceed, how to, as I've said, innovate and redesign a particular material product or material in general. Okay? So yun yung pwedeng gawin ng materials engineer, no? Kasi lahat ng failures na pwede nating ma-experience with any product that we use, lahat yan may material evidence lagi yan, no? May physical evidence yan para masabi na ito ay nagkaroon ng failure, nagkaroon ng premature failure, o nagkaroon ng the wear failure. Pag wear failure yan, hindi expected yan, as designed yan, kumbaga. Pero kapag ito ay premature failure, then that now justifies, no? Saan may mali? Anong mali dun sa design natin na hindi siya nag-function as we have now designed it to function? Okay? So ibig sabihin, kailangan mag-innovate, may mali siguro sa process natin, kaya nag-introduce ng defect na hindi natin nakita at the beginning. No? So may mga ganyang lumalabas kapag ikaw ay materials engineer in the failure analysis. And in this scenario, guys, no, there's a lot of collaboration that will have to do with other engineering practitioners. Lalo na kunyari, if I cite an example, kapag ikaw ay nagkaroon ng materials na nanggaling sa isang building construction na nag-collapse, basically. Then, hindi ka pwedeng pumasok doon na mag-isa mo. No? Basically, you have to work with a civil engineer because it is the civil engineer that probably will tell you saan ang weak points ng building structure na ito. Saan kayo gumamit ng mga bagong materyales na hindi pa pala siya na-explore masyado or kumbaga nag-explore yung company na mag-innovate at mag-employ ng bagong materials pero without knowing na hindi pa pala yan na-test at hindi pa nagkaroon ng reliability test on that. So with that knowledge, dahil nakipag-collaborate ka sa isang civil engineer, then you will be guided also on how to go about looking for physical evidences. Kasi ang laki-laki ng building, hindi ho natin pwede siyang isa-isahin lahat ng materials na nandun, isa-isahin natin siyang tingnan. Okay? So therefore, there is that importance of collaborating when we pursue failure analysis as our practice of profession. Okay? So moving forward, okay, now, of course, last but not the least, of course, guys, this is where I belong also. Okay, as a materials engineer, you can also be, dapat nawala yung materials engineer in the academe or in the practice of advancing professional growth, no? So helping everybody of us to advance our knowledge and our competencies, basically, no? So here, materials engineer explains and demonstrates the concepts, principles and applications of material products for training and continuous professional development. Okay, so not everything is learned from your baccalaureate degree, kumbaga, no? And even when we pursue PhD o MS and PhD, hindi pa rin natin mako-cover yan. Maganda yung nabanggit ni Ma'am Jill kanina na we have to also acknowledge the things that we do not know. Okay? Because that thing that we do not know actually is an opportunity for us to also grow. Okay? So yan yung tinatawag natin na professional growth, and therefore there is that mechanism, or there is that opportunity for materials engineer to also practice in this profession. Okay? Kasi may kanya-kanya tayong expertise na nag-generate, and having an institution where that sharing of expertise is also a venue where materials engineer can practice profession. Okay? So I think this is the last slide for the scope of materials engineer. Therefore, now let me proceed to the slide by where I now define professional practice. Kasi if you notice guys, lahat ng mga kinuwento ko kanina sa mga nagtapos na ng materials engineering, alam nyo, dinaanan nyo lahat nun doon sa mga syllabus. Kahit anong curriculum version ang dinaanan nyo, lahat yun dinaanan ninyo. No? Doon sa mga Math E15 na papasok pa lang, no? Trust me, all of those things that I've mentioned, dadaanan nyo yun, i-define sa inyo, ulit-ulit sa inyo, paulit-ulit sa iba-ibang subjects, kasi with repetition, of course, no, mas pumapasok sa atin, pumapalalim yung pagkaintindi natin sa konsepto. So therefore, now, kailan nga ba ito nagiging professional practice na? No? So I've mentioned in the beginning that it is something that you render to institution, to communities, to people, no? The practice that you now, the skills that you have learned now, you offer to others, no? So now it is officially defined as, no, sa resolution ulit natin sa Math ECB, this refers to the offering of rendering of services of any of the specialized branches of materials engineering for a fee, okay, or a salary, or other rewards or compensation, no, paid directly to you or through another person or through another institution, okay, or even without such reward or compensation, for as long as this is something that you offer to now, not other people, because you know that it will help them, it will capacitate them, it will improve them in whatever thing that they do, no? In improving quality of life, quality of business, no? In many other things. Okay? So yon. Okay, so I guess I will end my discussion with this. No, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I am ready to answer your questions. Okay, I hope I did not consume all the time. No. Hindi ko napapansin ang oras. Yon.
Hindi naman, Doc.
All right. Sige.
So,
Okay.
so thank you, Doc, for that wonderful talk. So, yung mga may questions, you can raise your hand or you can chat it sa chat box. Then, if ever, so,
I hope hindi ako naging masyadong mabilis, no? I tried to slow down. Mabilis ako magsalita, guys, pero I tried to slow down in the whole discussion.
yeah. So,
Any questions?
any questions? Mitch, may tanong ka, Ma'am
Wala
Mitch.
nagtatanong. Ako na lang. Hi, Doc. Doc, kailan po yung plan natin to roll out the first certification exam?
Okay, thank you for the question, Mitch. When the Math ECB was instituted in 2018, guys, we declared to IMEP General Assembly that we will already implement an examination, a certification examination within the year. No, may program, may timeline pa kaming dineclare then, no. But we realized, no, parang hindi siya ganun kasimple. So now nagkaroon ng adjustment doon sa schedule, no. So I guess now is clearer to us now before we can declare the exact timeline on when the certification examination will really come around or will begin or will be administered. Parang we need to take it one step at a time, and the first thing that we have to produce, guys, is the technical specification for the certification examination. Okay, siguro magtatanong kayo, what is that technical specification? Okay, so parang ito lang, parang ano lang to, guys, 'di ba? Kayo pag nagpapa-exam si teacher sa inyo, gusto nyo meron kayong guide. Ano ba 'tong i-exam sa amin? Ano bang tatanong sa amin ng mga aspeto ng exam na to? Okay? So basically that's the content of the technical specification. Okay? So we're working on that. Okay, so essentially medyo hindi ganun kabilis guys, kasi nga there are really just a few of us right now, no? Napakita ko sa inyo kanina yung kung ilan lang kami, and we are all doing this on a part-time mode, kumbaga. So there are targets that we make na hindi namin nasusunod kasi nagkakaroon ng mga urgency sa trabaho ng mga kasama natin sa MAT-ECB. But that is the first thing that we have to inform you with, no? Hindi ho kami pwedeng pumunta sa examination hangga't hindi namin na-disseminate sa inyo yung ano bang laman nitong certification examination na to. Ano bang specification na tong examination na to? Para kayo ay magiging guided doon sa pag-aaral na ito, no? Pagpaghahanda. Para naman tama na mapasa nyo at makita nyo din na tama yung pinag-a-assess namin. It's not off the wind, kumbaga, coming from anywhere lang, ano. It's something that you are assessed properly and will ensure na kapag ako ay pumasa dito, ako ay confident already na marami akong alam, kaya ko nang maging professional practitioner of materials engineering. Okay? So yun yung intention ngayon. So to answer your question, Ma'am Mitch, hanggang ngayon, hopefully, no, we've nag-rounds na sa mga specific consultants from different universities. Pag naayos yun, the next thing is to already announce it to the universities na, no? So the announcement means we will have orientations in different universities to tell them na ito na po yung specification natin. Magkakaroon na po tayo ng examination a few months after this. No? So parang ganun yung target natin, Mitch. So hopefully within the year, we'll try to see if we can do the virtual conferences, no, with the different universities. Kasi nga, yun yung next step after namin nag-consult sa mga individual consultants from different universities. Okay. So yun, ma'am. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Doc.
All right.
Nagkahiyaan lang, Doc. So may mga multiple questions na po tayo. Yung first po ay, ano po ang difference ng Materials Engineer accreditation from DPWH and the MAT-ECB?
All right, good question. The materials engineer, ito malamang ang magulang na to ay nasa construction industry, no? Nasa civil engineering profession siguro. Kasi nga, it is the civil engineers that has these materials engineer, how should I say it? Parang title right now, ano? Na in the law, okay, kumbaga, dahil nga ito ay being institutionalized by DPWH, okay? Ang kaibahan essentially is that yung materials engineer ng DPWH, actually guys, hindi lang siya, if you review the guidelines of this, dapat may DPWH materials engineer. Hindi siya materials engineer lang, no? DPWH materials engineer. Ibig sabihin, it is something that is related to the construction industry. Okay? Ang ibig sabihin nun, para ka ma-qualify na DPWH materials engineer, ikaw ay dapat civil engineer muna. Okay? So mas mahirap na qualification ba yun? Hindi ko alam. Kasi dapat ikaw ay civil engineer muna, o dapat nag-license ka muna na civil engineering bago ikaw ay magiging materials engineer ng DPWH. No? Yun. And so therefore, sa atin, ang importante sa atin sa materials engineering certification na meron tayo is meron ka nung background talaga, no? The core, the knowledge, the competencies that is really materials engineering. I hope that is something that satisfies yun now, kasi hindi naman natin tinuturo yung mga tinuturo natin sa inyo, sa mga materials engineers, kumbaga, sa curriculum natin, hindi yan siya na ituturo sa MATI ng materials engineering ng DPWH. I'm afraid I might be putting it very simply, pero one important function of the materials engineers ng DPWH, they have to ensure na yung mga materials na ginagamit nila sa construction ng mga structures, ng mga bridges, ng mga building, kumbaga, ay nagsasatisfy ng mga standards. So kumbaga sa atin, isang aspeto siya ng materials engineering certification natin. That's adapting to the industry, if you will recall it. No, it's the first materials engineering practice, kumbaga na describe ko kanina. Okay, so now if you probably ask, so sila ba ay officially magiging kaparehan natin? Maybe we will get to that point, no? Kapag siguro ready na tayo na mag-institutionalize nito, no, maging materials engineering law na siya of the Philippines, then we can engage them already, no? We can I guess see what is their level in relation to our level, kasi I think there is a sheer big difference, no, in quality, the kind of materials engineer that they are and the kind of materials engineer that we are. Okay, yan po sa ngayon yung sagot ko.
So Doc, yung next question ay medyo similar pero in other aspects. So yung tanong po is, paano po madidistinguish ang MAT-E sa Chem and Chem-Eng?
Okay, hard questions, guys. Ako, this is not official response of the MAT-ECD. I am speaking as an individual person here, and my appreciation of the different engineering fields of practice. Okay, chemical engineering. If you go by the definition or the specification of chemical engineering from the CHED guidelines, kumbaga, definitely there's a lot of difference between the chemical engineering as specified in CHED and the materials engineering that is also already specified in CHED. Pag i-compare niyo lang yung curriculum ng chemical engineering tsaka curriculum ng materials engineering and the competencies that are defined there, magkaiba. Kasi magkaiba talaga sila ng practice. Okay? When we say practice kasi, ito yung, alam mo yun, kahit kapikit mata ka na, ginagawa mo, kaya mong gawin. Magkaiba ang nagagawa ng isang chemical engineer at isang materials engineer. Nandito si Gia, parang nakita ko yung name niya kayo. So Gia is a chemical engineer and graduated from UPLB, and she pursued her MSE in our department. So I hope Gia can also contribute later if she has her own thoughts about it. No, but for personally, as I've said, no, ang chemical engineering, if I based from the curriculum, marami sa kanila ay ang kanilang competency talaga is design ng processes, no. So therefore, design of processes means unit processes are put together to produce a certain product. The product can be materials as well, but the product can be petroleum, no? Yun yung sikat sa kanila, isa sa mga sikat nila na products. The products can be pharma, the products can be food, basically, though they're also are competing with the food and technology. Food nutrition and technology ba na specialization in that area, no? Pero yun, essentially with my appreciation, yun yung alam ko na competency ng isang BS degree holder ng chemical engineering. Mahusay po sila mag-design ng process, mag-design ng planta, mag-make sure na yung planta na yun ay energy efficient, material resource management wise, effective, efficient sila, no? And yun yung chemical engineering plant design, essentially, and making sure that that plant is going to operate. Okay? Yan, guys, hindi natin ginagawa masyado sa materials engineering. We have ideas of what the unit processes are, but like to size these processes, this equipment, anong size ba ng equipment para ako ay mag-generate ng ganito kadaming product, hindi natin ginagawa yan. No? Ginagawa ng chemical engineers yan, pero hindi natin ginagawa yan. But we do make sure one thing I know, what we make sure is in terms of in relation to process is that we make sure na yung parameters na i-apply ay na doon sa process ay akma doon sa material. Kunyari na lang, gusto natin i-form yung material into some shape. Anong temperature ba siya gagawin dapat? Anong temperature na hindi siya masira? Anong hindi siya
Okay, so please
paano i-test eventually. So yon ang chemical engineering at materials engineering. I hope hindi ako putol-putol. Yes, nag-unstable lang ang internet.
Okay na po, Doc. Bumalik na po siya.
Alright.
Kanina po, hindi.
But I hope my message was received. Yan. Do I need to repeat the answer, Jesh? Nakuha niyo ba yung answer ko kaya?
Yung last ko pong na-gets is regarding yung sa pag-design ng planta. So, hindi siya tinuturo sa MAT-E. So, that was around that area po, nag-stop.
Alright. Okay, sige. Thank you, Jesh. So I guess ang essence na lang doon, katugtong nun is that si materials engineer, ano ba yung ginagawa niya in relation to process? Napakahapyawan ko to kanina nung kinukwento ko yung materials engineer in the process. No? So essentially, the materials engineer knows what are the parameters applicable to the material. No? Kapag kunyari ito ay fino-form natin into a certain shape, alam natin kung ano yung appropriate pressure na i-apply para yung material ay hindi mababali, hindi magka-crack, no? Tama yung magiging shape niya, no? Hindi siya, kunyari may application of heat ito, hindi siya magde-degrade thermally, hindi siya masusunog. So yun yung mga bagay na pwede nating ipasa sa chemical engineer so that they can now use it in designing, no? In knowing what equipment to buy, the size of the equipment, and to operationalize this equipment. Okay? So yun po yung interaction natin with the chemical engineers.
Okay. So thank you for that. So yung ibang question is regarding how do we become a member of IMEP. So my my message from Mitch regarding it. So yung related dyan, Doc, is parang necessary ba na maging IMEP member? So to take the MAT ECV.
Okay. That at this point, necessary po siya. It's the first step. You have to be an IMEP member. Okay. Para ikaw ay magkaroon ng certification na ma-certify as a certified a CMAT-E or a PMAT-E.
Okay. So yung next question, may mga few questions pa po. So yung next po is, ano po yung overall competencies for a specific MAT-E job in general? Tapos, yung pinaka-important po na common to all na sinabi po na possible jobs kanina. So yung parang super general na competency skills na dapat nasa isang MAT-E para mag-apply siya sa MAT-E CV.
Ang bigat ng tanong, I'm not sure if I will be able to put them into a general term, no? Pero para sa akin, by the term materials engineer, no? By the term materials engineering, we really anchor to the thing, no? To the material that we are expected to engineer, basically, no? And when we say materials, engineer the materials, it is beginning with the fact that you know the material, okay? At least you know what is a metal versus a ceramic material. What are strengths of a material, a metal over a polymer material, no? And how do I test it? How do I prove it na itong materials na ito ay indeed of this and that quality, of this and that capacity? In order for me to tell others na itong materials na ito ay pwede dyan, Itong materials to ay kulang ng kakayahan, kaya na kailangan nating mamili ng iba, kaya na kailangan nating i-innovate, i-design, i-redesign, i-improve yung material na yan. Yun yung ano, no? Yun yung starting point natin, ano? Being able to know the material is an important competency. Being able to know how to test and qualify that material. And then from there, no, everything else can emanate from it, no? Kaya kong sabihin kung itong material na to ay tama, akma dyan sa application na gusto nating paggamitan sa kanya, or kaya ko na sabihin na ay kailangan nating i-improve yung property niya in that direction, kailangan nating mag-redesign, or kaya ko na ngayon sabihin na, ano pa ba, kaya kong sabihin na, kunyari nag-fail, ano, ay kaya pala hindi siya appropriate sa application na yan kasi ito lang yung constraints ng material na to. So I guess, no, that's putting all together the basic, the very core competency of a materials engineer, no? Being able to know what material is and to know how to create specification or define specification of that material. I hope that's satisfied.
Yes. Okay, sige, Doc. So thank you for that answer, Doc. So for the next question po, so yung parang from Gian, so I am curious how the CB's view on the scope or definition for professional practice formed. So paano siya nabubuo? Yun po daw, Doc.
Okay, hi Gian. Si Gian, nagkaroon din kami ng opportunity to be in one class, ano. The definition of the professional practice really is anchored on the, kumbaga from the MATI-CB perspective, we anchored on the definition of materials engineering that we have formalized basically, no, sa CHED as an example, sa curriculum natin sa university as an example. Pero inisip ko parang mas malalim yung tanong ni Gian eh. Parang inisip ko parang parang I guess Gian is asking kung paano mo nasasabi ay ito ay materials engineering scope of profession lang, ano? At hindi ito ginagawa or scope of profession ng chemical engineering. Kumbaga, no? Like the example, the question that was raised earlier. Okay. Okay, siguro pwede ko itong sagutin in the perspective of differentiating what is practice that is taught, practice of engineering that is taught in the BS degree, and the engineering that you can learn when you now pursue graduate school. Okay, siguro. Let me do that, no? Yung practice that is taught to you in materials engineering in the BS degree, ito yung mga typical na ginagawa, no? From generations, from history, no? Ito yung mga typical na ginagawa ng isang person na pwede nating sabihin na siya ay materials engineer, at iba ang set of concepts, ibang set of knowledge and principles na kailangan para maihanda yung person na yun para marunong siya mag-practice. No, kunyari na lang para ako marunong mag-characterize, magsabi na itong material na to ay ito ay kunyari lang, no, kung ito ay isang mineral ba ito, isang metal ba ito, isang whatever, no, another type of material. Kailangan meron ako nung alam nung kumbaga kaya kong mag-identify ng test, kaya kong dahil alam ko ang basic concept na ito. At itong ang basic concept ng chemistry, ng physics, ng math that surrounds that, no? Na itong set na to pwedeng hindi alam ng ibang ng chemical engineering as an example, no, from the earlier question, ng electrical engineer, ng civil engineer, no, hindi tinuturo sa kanila, kaya may sarili tayong practice kasi hindi naman na tinuturo sa kanila. Kung baga sa BS degree, that hindi ito hindi ito yung ang stage na ina-expect nyo ay mag-explore kayo ng mga kakaiba, kasi ang tinuturo talaga sa BS degree kung ano yung pina-practice, ano yung araw-araw na practice na ginagawa. Kung baga ano yung routine sa isang materials engineer na profession, engineering na profession. So yun yung tinuturo sa atin sa BS degree. And that's why it's defined, no, in the chemical engineering in the materials engineering profession, as defined in the CHED guidelines. Now, then the question is, ang mga chemical engineers ba, bakit meron tayong naririnig na nagmamaterials science and engineering din or nagmamaterials engineering din? Yes, by all means, they can do that as well. No? Dahil wala naman tayong, if I should say, no, hindi naman tayo turfing supposedly. Because in the innovation level, lalo na kapag magde-design ka ng mga bagong materials, your expertise, no, kunyari na lang sa application, kunyari sa petroleum application ng materials. Chemical engineers will have a lot of exposure to that because a lot of them are in the petroleum engineering practice, diba? In the petroleum refining. So technically, kung sino man yung engineers na exposed na doon, no, sa mga practices, operations doon, kapag sila ay kailangan mag-explore ng mga bagong materials, hindi madali ang isang materials engineer na papapasok doon as a bagong salta. Kailangan at pwedeng magkaroon pa ng yung chemical engineer na nandun exposed sa field na yun, na magkaroon ng mas magandang perspective, mas maraming kakayahan para mag-innovate on the materials options, materials development. Pero hindi nila kayang mag-test, hindi kaya nilang ano bang properties ang paano pa natin siya i-ensure na siya ay consistently ganitong bagong material na to na dinedefine. So itatap nila tayo para itetest natin, ito ba ay talagang ganito ang quality niya? Ito ba yung identity niya, no? Kaya magkakaroon tayo ng compositional analysis na ginagawa for them. So yun yung siguro differentiation, no, by saying na we're doing practice of materials engineering, but that doesn't prevent chemical engineers from practicing or civil engineers from practicing materials engineering as well. But hindi lang sila tinuro at hinanda, no, nung sila ay nag-aral para sila ay marunong mag-practice. Tayo yung hinanda para gumawa ng practice na yon. I hope that answered Gian's question.
Okay, Doc. So, may mga 5 questions po, Doc. So,
Go lang. Sige lang, ma'am.
This is clarification question from Mr. Carl Alvarez. So,
Yeah.
Is the certification exam a placeholder exam to be administered until the time we have an official law institutionalizing the practice of Mat-E? And after which will it become a PRC administered test? A licensure exam na po daw ba?
Okay. I'm not sure how to. I'm not so sure what is meant by placeholder exam, no? But really, the Mat-ECB, the certification examination, is an effort, no? It's an initiative of IMEP, basically, of the Institution of Materials Engineers of the Philippines, so that if one becomes a member of IMEP and one is certified of this and that, no, IMEP is also vouching for the capability of that person. So kahit saan, kumbaga si person na yon na sinertify ng Mat-ECB, dahil ang Mat-ECB ay sa ngayon in-institutionalize ng IMEP. So both the Mat-ECB and IMEP can back up that person, no, when that person's capacity, capability, professional practice is being challenged. Or that's another way of looking at it. And also, of course, no, the intention really is certify namin na ikaw ay indeed marunong mag-practice ng materials engineering. Parang ganun yung ginagawa ngayon ng materials, ng Mat-ECB. Now, para ito ay magiging recognized ng, let's say, no, ng PRC, then it has to be put into law. Okay. Now, if I may use the certification process that IE is doing, because IE is also a benchmark for us. No, when we did all this, when we started this up, coming up with the Mat-ECB, meron po silang IE certification board, and ang IE wala po silang PRC. But what they do is they also have something similar to us, but their situation right now is sila ay recognized na ng PRC. So bago sila na recognize ng PRC, sila muna ay nag-institutionalize sa loob ng IE professional organization, PIIE, if I remember the org acronym sa kanila, sa loob ng organization nila. At nung naging handa sila, nagkaroon na sila ng magandang track record basically, then that now was used, became instrumental for them to get that recognition from PRC. Okay? So kaya wala ka ngayon makikitang PRC administered in a certification ng IE. Now for MATE, hindi pa tayo. No, nothing is clear, nothing is definite at this point. Hindi tayo sure kung tayo ba ay gagaya sa IE na si IMEP lang ang magiging, or si MATE CB yung mag-institutionalize ng certification board, or ita-translate natin ito dun sa Professional Regulation Commission, no, na magkaroon ng materials engineering licensure exam. Okay, so we are not yet at that point of making that option or selecting that, making decision in that direction. Carl, no? Hello din, Carl. Okay. So yon.
Okay. Sige, Doc. I-short ko na lang. So last 2 to 3 question po.
Mhm.
So medyo related siya sa kanina. So yung tanong po ay nasa 4-year course po daw siya ng MATE. Tapos they have 15 units of chemistry. Now, there is a licensure exam for chemical technicians that states na undergraduate students who earn at least 30 units of chemistry can take that exam. So, is BS MATE already eligible to take that exam, or do I have to take another 15 units of chemistry?
Okay. Thank you for that question. Okay, Selwyn. Hi, Selwyn. The chemistry law, I guess this is the chemistry law, and we're referring to the chemistry law. The chemistry law, it requires it to be a chemistry course. Kaya dapat ito ay katulad ng mga Chem 31, Chem 28, no? Chem 17, dapat ganun yung 15 units na sinasabi nila, na ni-require nila. Now, in order for our materials engineering units to be credited as substitute to chemistry, there might be that need for us to lobby for that recognition, that substitution. So dapat mag-uusap muna, siguro sa aking pananaw, mag-uusap muna yung CB natin, tsaka yung PRB, Professional Regulatory Board ng chemistry, and see if there is that possibility of them recognizing, crediting the MATE courses to complete the 30 units that they require for technician licensure. Okay. Yun, I guess in short, that's the answer to that, Jesh. So, sa ngayon, hindi kailangan nila ng chemistry talaga.
Anong schedule?
Okay po. So, yung next question po is, so last 2 na po talaga. So, yung last question po ay, if the application for student member is successful, how will become one? And what are the grounds to say that a member is active or inactive?
This is IMEP membership.
Yes po.
Okay. I really have no authority to explain it, no? Kasi nga it's IMEP membership. Baka si Mamich, because Mamich is IMEP membership committee head, if I am not mistaken.
So, I think
Mamich siguro pwede sumagot dyan.
pwede siguro itong sagutin ni Ma'am Mitch sa chat
Yeah,
box.
via
So,
chat box na lang para mag-proceed tayo to the last question.
so last question po. So medyo, yung question ay, why are we called engineers po? Kasi po sa ibang material scientist daw po yung tawag kasi wala daw board.
Oh, okay. I don't think the label of a scientist and engineer is defined by the board. Okay. Again, this is not official of MAT-ECB. This is personal. This is my appreciation of what materials science is versus materials engineering is. No? materials, well, in general, science is foundational. Science will help us explain bakit itong element na to ay magre-react with another element. Bakit ito sila ay magpo-form ng a certain unit structure of a material? Bakit sila ay nagiging metal? Bakit sila ay magiging polymer? Yun ginagawa ng chemistry, ng science, you know. There's a lot of whys that science will have to provide us to ensure that we are grounded and you know, we are connected to the basic principles, no, that will govern solid material in general, basically, dahil we're dealing with solid materials in essence, ano. So maraming tanong, maraming behavior, kumbaga bakit yung materials, ano yung kumbaga ano yung metal bonding, ano yung chemical bonding, no? Lahat yan nili-layout ng science. Those are science terms. But we need to understand those things to be able to let us know what are the constraints, what are the limits, when do we apply materials in certain applications. Kasi parang that's essentially engineering. Engineering is, you know, you put together, you design the material so that material now serves a certain function. That's essentially engineering. You're addressing certain needs of a community ba, of an operation, kasi may gap, ano? So therefore you design materials that will address. Pwede itong mga materials ito are off the shelf, you put them together, you assemble them, that's materials engineering, no? And then you make sure that it will function in the application that it is intended to be used in, no? Pero kung kunyari ikaw nandun sa area ng research and development, ano, ang research and development, usually pwede kang nandoon ka para mag-explore ng bagong material. Pwede kang nag-put together ng iba't ibang materials so to come up with a new one, basically. Nagko-combine ka ng iba't ibang chemicals to come up with a new one. To explain why these materials are going to be formed, you need science, no, to do that, to understand that deeper. Kasi parang sa atin, kahit behavior lang, no, kahit kumbaga sa atin sa engineering, pag nakita natin na nagwo-work, pwedeng enough na sa engineering yun. Pero para maging sustainable yun at maging consistent, can be repeated, kailangan nating maintindihan yung science behind it para maulit natin yung mga process at pagbubuo ng materials na ginagawa natin para ito ay mag-service or mag-function into certain applications. So yun yung kaibahan ng engineering versus science, no? Yung licensure has nothing to do with that, no? Licensure somehow is a way of standardizing, like how we are doing it in certification. Licensure is making sure na meron tayong pinupulis natin yung sarili nating nagpa-practice ng materials engineer, and there is some responsibility or accountability that we carry, no, in making in allowing one to practice materials engineering. Yun, I guess, no, yun yung essence ng licensure, no? Kasi ito ay haharap ka na sa tao eh. Pwede itong mag-cause ng damage to property, to danger to life, to risk to life, no? Kaya yun yung nila-license mo. Ini-ensure mo na sana ito ay babantayan natin hindi mangyari. Basically, that's the licensure part of our field of practice. Yun po, siguro.
So, Doc, thank you so much for that wonderful talk and for answering the questions. So, maraming mahihirap na tanong, pero thank you for answering everyone. So, yung next po ay awarding for the certification po. So, hintayin ko lang yung share screen. So, yan. So we thank you, Doc. So, we present this Certificate of Appreciation proudly awarded to Dr. Leslie Joy L. Diaz for sharing her knowledge and expertise as a resource speaker in the special lecture of Math 15, Principles of Materials Engineering Practice, entitled Materials Engineering Scope of Professional Practice, given on the 14th of July 2021 via Zoom platform at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, Quezon City. So thank you so much, Doc. So yung next part po ay photo op ulit. So pa-on ng mga videos nyo. Then, pwede, Ma'am Mitch, pwede bang pa-screenshot, pa-picture ulit? So, yun.
Ay, teka, sige, saglit lang
Ay,
ha.
sige.
Ayan, sige pa. On ng inyong videos. Okay, so ready, 1, 2, 3, first page. The next page. Ayan. Then page 3. And then last one. Okay, thank you. We're done.
So thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So, for the Math E15 students, naka-upload na sa OVLE ata yung guidelines for your reflection paper. Then, next week, meron tayo ulit na seminar, special lecture. So, we will post it next week or around the weekend para nandun yung details regarding the seminar, the special lecture. So, thank you everyone for staying with us and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you po.
Thank
Doc.
you, Ma'am Jill. Thank you, Docles.
Thank
Doc. Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Clarification, next week yung ating webinar, not next week.
Ay,
Ako
sorry.
magulat kayo.
Oo, next week pala. Sorry.